Hello, friends. I'm back, your favorite conservative grandpa. Great to be with you again. For those of you that might be new to me, you can check me out on Facebook, on Twitter, but especially on Instagram. You can check out the entire conservative grandpa world there. Yesterday I spoke about my admiration for President Trump. Today I want to talk about a few things, all revolving about how things have gotten worse in America during my lifetime. Now, obviously, in certain ways, things have gotten a lot better in America, particularly with opportunity, the ending of systemic racism, all very good things. But in a few very important ways, things have gotten worse. One of those ways is with freedom of speech. Now, freedom of speech is a very important value of America. It's a bedrock principle, the First Amendment. But over, I'd say, the last decade and even longer, freedom of speech is under serious threat in America, especially with the huge social media companies that I just mentioned, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube. These huge companies now have more power over our speech than any government in the history of humanity. I mean, think about it. Even the worst, most totalitarian dictator in whatever terrible country throughout history you want to think of, they couldn't squelch or censor speech the way that YouTube can, that Facebook can, that Twitter can, because these terrible dictators throughout history, they didn't have the means or technology to. But now, lots of our communications, lots of our arguing, lots of our back and forth, they're done through these media companies, this new technology, and these companies have so much power over our speech, and they're not using that power prudently. Now, I understand these are private companies, and as private companies, they have a lot of flexibility to do what they want, but you know what? It's not right what's going on. And I could just point to a few examples. Number one is the great Prager University. Dennis Prager, he has his Prager University where they have 5-minute conservative videos. A few months ago, I think 3 or 4 of his videos on Facebook got 0 views. Now keep in mind, Prager University has like 3 million fans. They have over 1 billion views. But all of a sudden, 3 or 4 of their videos got 0 views because somebody at Facebook decided to censor it because they said it was hate speech. 80 PragerU videos on YouTube are censored right now. They're censored so that students at school can't see them. They're censored because it's under some category of violence or hate speech or pornography, which is unbelievable. See, this is what the left does. They take this broad, generic term, hate speech, whatever that means, and they apply it to conservatives mostly. And if you're a conservative, if you fear radical Islam, you're a hater, you're an Islamophobe. So they censor you on Twitter, they censor you on Facebook. If you don't think that men should be able to compete in women's athletes, if you have some legitimate concerns about all what's going on with in the transgender world today, with men thinking they're women and then dominating women's sports, which we see so often in cycling and track and field, then you're a hater. Then these companies censor you. So this is a big problem. This is a big problem what's going on with the social media companies. The David Horowitz Freedom Center has been censored. Prominent conservatives like Laura Loomer have been kicked off Twitter. Meanwhile, Twitter hosts still haters like Louis Farrakhan, the left-wing, despicable anti-Semite. He's still on Twitter, but the conservative journalist Laura Loomer was kicked off. So there's a big threat to freedom of speech, and something needs to be done about it. Now, moving on, another way America's gotten worse is I just touched on it. Things are changing very fast, especially with all this transgender activism going on. And let me say at the outset that if somebody has gender dysphoria, we should have compassion for that individual. We should feel bad for them. I believe that everybody is a child of God, made in the image of God. And if somebody is born a woman and then they think they're a man, that's very sad, and we should feel sorry for them. But it doesn't mean that we should change all the rules of society in order to accommodate this minute fraction of the population that has gender dysphoria. But that's what we're doing. We're turning kind of our society upside down with regards to gender distinctions, with regards to men and women. And there's a few examples of this. Number one is in many preschools and many schools today, teachers aren't allowed to say boys and girls. I repeat that. Lots of teachers, I know this from personal experience, from people I know that are teachers, they're not allowed to say boys and girls anymore in schools. They have to say students. Same thing, they're not allowed to say moms and dads. They can't say to your students, tell your moms and dads this. They have to say parents. I mean, this is crazy. And the reason they're supposedly not allowed to do it is, what if somebody has two moms? What if somebody has two dads? Okay, fine. But we don't change all the rules of our society because somebody might have two moms or somebody might have two dads. And this is really taken overboard by, you see that biological men are going through a procedure where they want to become a woman, and then they're competing in women's athletes. I mean, how crazy is this? Just recently, you see it all the time on the news. I mean, you're not going to see it on CNN or MSNBC because they don't want to report on these stories because it makes the left look crazy. But conservative outlets, you'll see stories all the time about these men who have turned into women, at least they think they've turned into women, and they dominate, whether it's track and field, cycling, wrestling. I mean, this is not fair. Where are all the feminists? Where are all the feminists that, supposedly care about women's equality and women's rights and women advancement? Pretty soon, all the champions, all the best athletes in women's sports are going to be biological men. I mean, this is crazy. We can have compassion for transgender individuals without letting biological men compete in women's sports. I mean, I think this is very... shouldn't be controversial, but I guess it is. Another terrible development in our society is how the left has embraced socialism. Again, this is just outrageous. Older Democrats, Harry Truman, JFK, they were staunch anti-communists, staunch anti-socialists. Being a Democrat, being left of center never meant that you were a socialist. JFK, Harry Truman, Democrats before 20 years ago were proud capitalists. Now capitalism is a dirty word on the left, a dirty word in the Democrat Party. I mean, again, this is outrageous. Capitalism has done more to lift people out of poverty than any other ideology over the last 150 years. Socialism is a doctrine of destruction, of despair, of oppression. You see what's happening in Venezuela. It was a prosperous country up until 5-10 years ago. Socialism destroyed that country. Now people are starving. So it's unbelievable that the new popular thing to be in the Democrat Party is a socialist. I don't know how this became acceptable, but it needs to end. It's really unfortunate. Next thing I want to talk about is border security. Again, 10, 20 years ago, it was common knowledge, it wasn't controversial to say we need to protect our borders. Illegal immigration is a bad thing. We should try to stop it. Now, and I spoke about this a little yesterday, President Trump wants to build a border wall, and the left is saying this is racist. How is it racist to want to defend your borders? I mean, it's amazing. You could look at some videos on YouTube, whether it's Chuck Schumer, 5 or 10 years ago, Barack Obama 5 or 10 years ago, Bill Clinton 20 years ago, when they're speaking, these Democrats, they sound like Donald Trump today. They're saying, hey, we need to stop illegal immigration. It's bad for our economy. It lowers wages. We need to prevent it. We need to stop it. Now, that's exactly what President Trump is saying today, and he's called a racist. He's called a bigot. I mean, it's unbelievable. It just shows how far left the Democrat Party has gone. People like to say that the Republicans have gone crazy. Trump has gone crazy. The Republicans have gone way right. Yeah, the Republicans have moved a little right, but the Democrats have moved way, way left. So those are some of the problems I see going on in America today. Lots of things are getting worse. There's lots of challenges that conservative Americans need to confront. Thank God we have Trump in the White House. He's our advocate. He's our leader. We need to support him, and we need to do all we can to defeat the Democrat Party. So until next time, friends, this is Conservative Grandpa. So long.